Coming to you live from quarantine, this is Thicc Man Inc.
We are back here with your host, top 100 Madden player Tristan Kilgannon, and ESPN featured athlete Isaiah Ashley. If you want to check us out now on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, anywhere podcasts are available, Apple iOS, Apple Music will be coming soon. You can now listen to our amazing commentary there. Links to those will be down in the description below. And starting off today, Earl Thomas got into an altercation with his wife and mistress. Isaiah, can you provide us deeper insight to this story?
Well, this is quite a story. It all starts back in January with a man named Derrick Henry. This man, Derrick Henry, is a mountain of a beast, a monster of an athlete, a superhuman specimen. And Mr. Thomas was convinced he would be able to tackle Derrick Henry, and he was not. He was stiff-armed so hard, he changed teams and became a blocker for Mr. Henry. And Earl Thomas fell into a deep depression after this. He didn't know what to do with himself. On top of that, quarantine had him down bad. Stuck at home alone with his wife, he couldn't handle it. So one day, he hops on Tinder, or Grindr, or Snapface, or whatever app you wanted, and sets up a meeting with a woman. And this woman is in fact not his wife.
He sets up a meeting with a woman on Grindr?
He may have. Grindr's a weird app, but can't say that I frequent it, so can't say that I know it works. But you're getting away from the story here. Earl Thomas then departs to a nearby Airbnb for this illicit affair. In Earl Thomas's infinite wisdom, he has allowed his wife to have access to his Snapchat. This is Earl Thomas's first mistake. Nina Thomas, Earl Thomas's wife, sees that Mr. Thomas is at an Airbnb nearby with another woman thanks to the Snapchat Maps feature. By the way, that Maps feature, good for nothing. Turn it off.
Make it
She then decides, I'm going to get the gun, and she heads out, and she assembles a posse of fine females to escort her to the Airbnb. When she arrives, she finds Earl Thomas in the throes of passion with this other woman. Nina Thomas does not handle this well. She storms in, pulls that thing out, and starts brandishing it around. At one point, sticking it just about a foot away from Earl Thomas's head. She claims she didn't think the gun was loaded. There was a bullet in the chamber. Earl Thomas is lucky to be alive. This has resulted in Nina Thomas being arrested and having a 200-yard restraining order put on her, which I think is very funny because that's about how many yards Derrick Henry rushed on the Ravens' defense. Has stayed that far away from Earl Thomas. But in a press release, Earl Thomas said he doesn't want people talking about this just to keep them in his prayers. He also attempts to say, I want to get ahead of this. Instead, he says, I just wanted to get ahead of this. And it is very clear that Earl Thomas did indeed want to get ahead based off this altercation. He just had a very poor choice of words. We'll throw that clip in there now. But moral of the story, don't cheat. And if you do cheat, don't do it when your wife has a gun. And if you do cheat when your wife has a gun, don't do it so that you can be seen on Snapchat Maps at an Airbnb 15 minutes away from your house. That's bad for everybody.
Earl Thomas, in the same quote, I don't know if it was a tweet, whatever I'm getting this information from, that he said that stuff like this happens, and I just wanted to let him know that stuff like this doesn't happen. It is not common to go cheat on your wife. Wasn't he with his brother? Or he was with his friend?
He wasn't cheating with his brother.
Who was in the other room?
That is not how the relationship turned out.
No, someone was in a room with another girl, though.
Details about Earl Thomas's brother's involvement are unclear at this time.
But stuff like that, back to my point, stuff like this doesn't happen. It is comical that Earl Thomas is on the ground wrestling a gun away from his wife, and then she's chasing him around with a knife. And like you mentioned, the Snapchat, what professional athlete who might be a pro at cheating at this point, has got all that money, leaves his Snapchat maps turned on to where she can find out where he's cheating on her? That's low level.
Hold on. Did you just say that having a lot of money and cheating were the same thing?
No, I'm saying having a lot of money, he probably has a lot of opportunity to cheat, and he may have done this in the past already, and he should be used to how to get around it.
Now, we are not here to make assumptions and slander Earl Thomas. I am.
With Earl Thomas, at what point is it that he's not the greatest guy in the world and that he's kind of a weird dude giving Pete Carroll the finger as he's carted off the field, telling the Cowboys to come get him to play on the team. Now he's cheating on his wife. At what point is he a weird dude and not such a great guy? He's a good teammate, but maybe he's also not the greatest guy in the world.
So that's what this is about for you. You don't like Earl Thomas particularly about this because he wanted to go be a cowboy. That's why you're going extra hard
No,
on him.
I'm just saying. But all this stuff is kind of culminating. His wife's in jail. It would have been what would have made the story even better is if his wife had come out and asked Jerry Jones to bail her out of jail. He might have at this point because he went and signed with the Ravens.
You think she told Jerry to come get her? You think that's how that phone
Yeah.
call went? I think Jerry has other things to worry about, like drafting from his private yacht. By the way, that's a big flex. We should draft from managers' homes every year just so we can see stuff like that. I love that part of the draft. But that's getting away from the point. The point
Bill
is,
Belichick's dog
Earl
is a
Thomas
good
is
dog.
a very good boy. He was obviously going to be a husky guy. Just looking at Bill Belichick, you could tell. But the point of this is, Earl Thomas has made a mistake and will get clowned on it for the rest of his career. And I gotta say, this is about the second worst thing to happen to him this year. Behind, yet again, I love bringing this up, the Derrick Henry stiff arm. A truly sad state of affairs for the All-Pro Raven safety. You hate seeing it.
Something that I thought I hated to see, and we're going to move on now. This week we're going to go over the Giants draft review and the Vikings draft, all their picks. The Giants are my favorite team. The Vikings are Isaiah's favorite team. So starting off with the Giants. As the Giants were on the clock, all offensive tackles were on the table. Isaiah Simmons was there. I was like, thank God. The Giants aren't going to get clowned again unless they pick a fucking quarterback or they pick some nonsense player. And then they pick Andrew Thomas, who wasn't as hyped up as Tristan Wirfs, who wasn't as hyped up as Jedrick Willis playing for Alabama, and he wasn't as hyped up as the fucking mountain of a man from Louisville. And if I'm being honest,
Mekhi
Becton, yes. And if I'm being honest, I didn't pay attention to how much talent, like the different tackles, film, different what they did in college exactly. But Andrew Thomas is still the real deal, and people were clowning them when he first got picked, but after the draft, not so much. He was the highest rated tackle by Pro Football Focus in college last year. He started since he was a freshman at Georgia 41 games, and he's a safe pick. The Giants obviously spent hours upon hours looking into offensive tackles. I believe that he will kind of be like Daniel Jones last year, to where Daniel Jones overachieved in some people's eyes to a certain extent, and it surprised a lot of people with how good he actually was. I know Isaiah doesn't feel that way, but that's how that was. McKinney in the second round, I think, was a steal for the Giants. He was Alabama's best defensive back the past 2 years.
If I may, you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself. I need to give my thoughts.
Oh, you want?
And you'll be surprised by this, sports fans. I'm going to give the Giants a round of applause. They made a phenomenal 16th pick in the first round. Andrew Thomas being there, it's right where he's expected to be drafted. All the other guys had been taken in that position of sufficient talent, and it was a great pick. Wait a second, he was the 4th overall pick. Ah! Oh, they did it again. Gettleman refused to trade down and instead overpicked a player he liked at a position where better players were available. I, unlike Tristan, former offensive lineman in college, by the way, have watched the film.
Oh, wait. Before I stop,
say,
let me stop you there. You're not you're a former practice squad offensive lineman. How many games did you actually get in?
So what you're saying is I was on a college
You didn't
football
play,
team.
though.
So what you're saying is I was on a college football team. Let's let the e-athletes shut up for a second and let me talk.
The Furman Paladin.
As a college football player, I watched a lot of film in my days. And as an analyst, I've watched quite a bit of film myself
Okay, buddy.
on some of the offensive prospects. And you will find this hard to believe. I watch offensive line film. It's very boring, but it lets me do stuff like this where I make fun of Tristan. There were some amazing prospects in this draft, and I think Andrew Johnson is one of the most athletic picks out there for the offensive tackle position. Obviously, most athletic pick is Mekhi Becton. There's no conversation about that. 6'7", 360.
Andrew Johnson? Who's Andrew Johnson?
Did I say Andrew Johnson? I meant
Andrew Thomas?
Andrew Thomas, excuse me. I am equivocating him to the great Joe Johnson. But besides the point, Andrew Thomas is a very athletic player. That being said, he has some major faults in his game. In the run blocking scheme, the thing the Giants need the most to succeed in the future with Saquon Barkley, Andrew Thomas has the tendency to heavily lean on his opponents and attempt to overpower them with his raw strength and size. And he is very raw, and he has a lot of strength and size. But that doesn't fly in the NFL. He is going to get slung repeatedly if he keeps leaning into people with his high
Out of
hips.
all the offensive tackles, he's the least raw. He was regarded as the least raw, and he was regarded as the safest pick. So I don't know where you're getting that from.
Okay, you clearly didn't watch the film. He's going to have issues in the run game. He may be able to play day one. Great. He's going to get embarrassed day one. He's a good pass blocking O lineman. That will be able to translate. But the Giants need someone who can run block, and Andrew Thomas is not going to be a great run blocker unless he breaks that tendency. And that is a tendency guys have trouble breaking. He's been doing that all 4 years at Georgia with, I'd imagine, some of the best coaching staff in the country. He's still got this high hips, and he's still got the tendency to lean on people and try and overpower them with his raw strength.
How much film did you watch just to comment on Andrew Thomas today?
Of Andrew Thomas, I watched about 20 minutes to just comment on him, of his plays. Went through a few of the SEC games, looked down versus Alabama, looked down versus the big dogs. Over his career.
So do you still think he's a good player, though?
He would have been a great 16th overall pick. I just think they're better offensive linemen. I mean, they clearly picked an athletic guy. If you want to go the most athletic guy, you look at Mekhi Becton. He was the superior athlete, and the Jets got him at the 11th overall pick. He was going to be there. If you want to risk on it, he's a great specimen, he's got high potential, that's the pick you go with. If you want someone who I am sure is going to be a sure thing guarantee, you go with Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa. I watched a lot of film on him too. He is by far the best offensive lineman in this class, at least at the tackle position that I could find. Then you can look at the Cleveland Browns, where they got Jedrick Wills. And he's really good. I don't really love Alabama prospects at the offensive line position, but he was really solid, and he's, again, an offensive tackle. I think he would have been a better pick. I think there are 4 better picks at this position than your boy from Georgia.
Yeah, but what happened? Sorry, what happened to the Giants last time they picked someone that was an offensive tackle because he had high risk? It was high risk, high reward as far as he was very athletic.
I'm glad you bring this up.
It was Eric Flowers. So I
yes,
think
but the Giants did not have the pick of the draft with Eric Flowers. They had already had the best tackle in that draft taken ahead of them. Eric Flowers, they wanted that offensive tackle. And they said, oh, well, we don't trade down because we're the Giants, so we're just going to stick with Andrew Thomas. That's what they did. Or that's what they did with Eric Flowers. And they could have got this pick at the 20th overall or maybe even late.
What if Andrew Thomas was a lot higher ranked than NFL teams and by NFL teams than we know? What if that's why Dave Gettleman took him at 4?
So what you're saying is, in a hypothetical universe where the Giants aren't terrible at drafting, Andrew Thomas is a good pick.
The Giants had a good draft, and if you
the
let
Giants
me,
had
I can get onto the rest of their
draft, but acting like Andrew Thomas was a good pick, particularly at number 4 overall, is stupid. They could have got rid of that pick, or, and this isn't even addressing the elephant in the room, Isaiah Simmons was right there. Next to Chase Young, he is the best player in that draft, in my opinion, in terms of raw ability to play day one. He will be able to translate. He can play any position.
You were telling me he was a toothpick.
And then I looked at him. Chase Young and Isaiah Simmons are the 2 best players in this draft class. And unless you are drafting a quarterback, you should always draft the best player available, in my opinion. And the Giants let him go by. He was by far the best linebacker, maybe the best defensive back. Jeff Okudah was very solid, but Isaiah Simmons is also a freak of nature, could play DB
I mean,
too.
You know how many years the Giants have gone with a very mediocre O-line? It was about time they took an offensive tackle in the
Then they
first
should
round.
have taken a good one. And they
Andrew
did
Thomas
take an
is
offensive
good,
lineman in the first round. It was Eric Flowers. I don't trust the Giants' history of drafting these guys. They've got a bad rep just off that, and he wasn't the best player available at his position according to people who are a lot smarter than us.
When it comes to offensive tackles, people tend to have very different opinions, and they also got a good, I'm not going to say very good because it's his 3rd round, but he was a good prospect in Matt Pert in the 3rd round out of UConn.
I like the Pert.
Got a decent amount of potential. He's 6'7".
I think I could see him maybe, he's 6'7". I think based off his strength and size, if they can bulk him up to like 340, 350, he could be a really good guard. I just don't think he quite has the quickness to be a tackle in the NFL, but I think he has a chance to be a guard.
I mean, he ran a 5 flat 506 40 if you want to be exact at 317 pounds, and he's 6'7". I think that's pretty impressive.
That's fast, but it's not quickness. Like, again, he is a very good athlete. I'm not denying that, but at the same time, off the edge, in the pass set, I don't know about his quickness. I, again, have watched film of this guy because I actually wanted to have a discussion about Matt Parrott. I'm glad we are. He was a good prospect, and if he can pick up 30, 40, 50 pounds, or maybe even stay at 317, that's a big way, too. He could be a all-pro. I'm not going to say all-pro. He could be a really good guard. I don't think, though, expecting both these guys to come in and be successful in the pass game is smart. I think one of them could be good in the pass game, maybe, but he's going to be weak in the run game. But we're getting really far away from the overall recap of the Giants draft. Did they draft bad players like they did last year, in my opinion? Not really. Did they overpick players like they did in last year's draft? Absolutely. Andrew Thomas
they
was
got a steal with
pick.
Xavier McKinney. He was the highest ranked safety in the draft. He had 95 tackles
with
last
incredibly
year.
weak safeties.
Yeah, but he's still very good. He was Alabama's best defensive back the past 2 years. Had 3 interceptions last year, 2 the year before, 95 tackles last year. And the last time the Giants drafted a safety that fell out of the first round was Landon Collins, and that turned out pretty good for them. For the 2 to 3 years, he was really good. So
I'm not going to dispute that pick. That is their best pick by far. Everything else I'd say is a bit of the high picks are a bit of a reach. When it comes to third round down, I think it's foolish to say, oh yeah, he's going to be a sure thing starter. You just don't know.
I mean, I tend to agree with that, but I think in the end, if I'm giving the Giants a letter grade, I give them an A- because while I agree with you on the fact that Andrew Thomas, they could have traded back. I disagree with you that the other players are definitely better, because if the Giants watched all this film on him, he definitely watched more film than you and definitely watched more than me, and they want Andrew Thomas, then pick him there. They had any choice. I think they could have traded back, like you said. I really liked how they addressed linebacker late in the round. Hopefully one of those will hit and one of those guys will be good. They drafted a few corners to bolster the secondary. So overall, I'd give them an A-, and I think they had a decent draft. Not an exciting draft, but I think they filled a lot of holes.
If I had to give a letter grade, which I was not initially prepared to do, but I'd say this is a C+ to B- draft. I like their draft with the exception of the reach of the first round pick, but when you have the 4th overall pick, you don't draft for need unless you're drafting a quarterback. You draft the best player available, and when the best player available is Isaiah Simmons, you draft Isaiah Simmons or at least get an offensive lineman who I think is a bit more upside.
Obviously, the best player available was a quarterback, though? Then you're still drafting the best player available?
Then you definitely trade out. Like, if Joe Burrow was still there at the 4th overall pick, you are trading that pick for future first rounders or even later picks in that draft, because you will get someone's entire draft if that's the case. But that didn't happen.
Anyway,
moving on.
The Vikings draft team. I don't know if the Giants are finna make moves next year. You just watch out. But Isaiah, the Vikings took 5 defensive backs out of their 15 picks. And it feels like you kind of called that a few weeks ago when you did your Vikings rant. They needed to replace Trey Waynes and Xavier Rhodes, and they did that. So what did you think about their draft class?
As a Vikings fan, it's frustrating every year to see 2 or 3 position groups get drafted in the first round when you have greater need. Last year was a bit of a shock because we actually took an O-lineman. Heaven bless his soul, he's a sinner, but he's still an O-lineman. I can accept that concession. But given the Vikings' history of drafting wide receivers in the first round, we'll get back to the cornerbacks later, Justin Jefferson makes me really, really nervous. I get you had to replace Xavier, or replace Stephon Diggs. I get that had to happen. But come on now, the last 2 wide receivers you've drafted in the first round have been Cordell Patterson and Laquan Treadwell. I don't trust the Vikings and Mike Zimmer to make good wide receiver picks in the first round. I would have as soon traded this pick away because all the high caliber O-linemen and DBs weren't available if you were going to take a DB, and just got later picks in the second round. So get like 20 picks in the draft. Do something crazy like that. But I am really nervous about Justin Jefferson. He played with the number 1 overall pick at quarterback. He played with one of the best O-lines available. And I just don't know if he's going to be that good in the NFL, based off the Vikings' history and based off the amazing situation he was in college.
I think Justin Jefferson is a big steal at wide receiver. Isaiah, you got to be happy that they didn't draft Jalen Rager, a receiver who didn't even have 1,000 yards last year, and they got Justin Jefferson, who had 1,500 yards receiving, 18 receiving touchdowns, and an offense. You said they had a lot of talent, but that also means they had a lot of other places to throw the ball, and he put up insane numbers. And he also runs a 4.43 40-yard dash, so he's not a slow receiver. He's really fast. So I think if the Vikings were going to be able to replace Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson was the best answer at this point in the draft. He's fast, put up crazy numbers, has really good highlights. He had the highest contested catch rate among receivers in the FBS. So if I were you, I'd be really happy. And but
You
on the
don't have a long
downside,
history of getting burned by your team drafting wide receivers, though.
what if they
But
get burned in a way you're not thinking about? What if Justin Jefferson
if you
is
say
so
Randy
good?
Moss, I'm going to walk over to your house and slap you.
That's not what I'm going to say. What if Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen are so good together that they get Kirk Cousins a 7th contract extension for like $40 million a year? What are you going to do then?
Look, if it gets to the point where Cousins gets another contract extension, he's at least won another playoff game, so we'll call that progress, or staying with the mean of being slightly above mediocre. But getting back to the defensive backs, they drafted Jeff Gladney in the first round at the 31st overall pick. And they drafted the only one I think is really worth mentioning also is Cameron Dantzler, not sure how to say his name. He was from Mississippi State. I liked his film. I liked how he played. He didn't really get picked on. He just got thrown away from because he was by far the best player on that Mississippi State defense, and they didn't challenge him too much in the SEC. There were plenty of other targets to pick on at Mississippi State. So I'm sort of happy with those picks, but it's the Vikings drafting cornerbacks every year. It puts me to sleep. I get frustrated when I see we take one offensive lineman. Ezra Cleveland, I didn't watch a ton of film on, but I assume there was a reason he's at Boise State.
Do you know if their first round pick did Mike Hughes even play last year?
Hughes was a starting center for most of last year.
No, Mike Hughes the corner.
Mike Hughes Oh yeah, Hughes played. I thought you were talking about the guy out of
That
NC
was
State.
Bradbury.
Yeah, that was Bradbury. You've got me all confused thinking of lineman. But yes, Mike Hughes played. He was a late in the year adjustment who kind of came in and sort of filled the role of Xavier Rhodes and got toasted plenty.
Yeah, I mean he was a first round pick. Hopefully in a year where he enters fully healthy, he can actually play well. I completely forgot. Like I didn't when I see the Vikings previous draft classes, I completely forgot he even existed until I take a look back at it.
I mean, he wasn't terrible. He wasn't good, but he's a rookie. I'm sure one of these picks is going to be good. The Vikings drafted Xavier Rhodes, who was good, and Harrison Smith, who is good, and Trey Waynes. I don't know if they drafted him, but he was in the program. So they have a history in recent years of good DBs. So I'm sure one of these guys will work out. But we still have a terrible offensive line, so I can't really celebrate.
But in your infinite wisdom, what'd you think of Ezra Cleveland out of Boise State then, as an offensive tackle guru?
Well, one little known fact, he also played D-line in college, very seldomly, all-state defensive lineman on his high school team. He's versatile. He's got decent quickness. I wouldn't say an athletic specimen because he isn't, but the Vikings needed some O-line help, and hopefully he's good enough to at least earn a starting spot by the end of the year. That's not saying much.
If the year even starts.
It's going to start. Schedules have been released, by the way, so expect that
Turn
at some
up
point in the future. But Ezra Cleveland hopefully works out. I have trouble putting faith in the Vikings organization based off their history of inadequacy and failure. It's almost like I'm a Giants fan. But anyway.
Maybe Nate Stanley out of Iowa will be the next quarterback for the Vikings.
You know, I'd be happy if Stan the Man became the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. I really would. Also, shout out to Kyle Hinton, 7th round pick out of Washburn. I don't know where that college is, but I love its name. Anyway,
his name?
Washburn. That's a
I
good
gotcha.
name for a college. Anyway, gotta say, if I had to give a grade, it'd be about the same as the Giants, probably a B- or a C+.
I mean, I think just off the Justin Jefferson pick, I think they had a great draft. I'd probably give it around a B+ to A-. I'm a bit higher on these two draft classes than you are. I think, and they finally decided to take another offensive lineman. To me, it seems that Rick Spielman is bringing God back to Minnesota, and he is not dead. You said that a few weeks ago.
Yes, we can throw the clip into that. God has frowned on the Minnesota Vikings for a long time. You don't lose 4 Super Bowls and lose a 15-1 season and lose to a kick from the 12-yard line if you're in God's good graces. So I don't know. Maybe we're sacrificing baby goats and going after the devil's approval this time. You can only
Anyway,
hope.
moving on to more recent news. Andy Dalton signed with a 2-year deal, a 1-year deal with the Cowboys. And I love the fact that the Beige water pistol is going to play for the Dallas Cowboys. And that's right, I said play. Jerry Jones is so dumb that he thinks an aging Andy Dalton is insurance for a young back end of top 10 to top 15 quarterback in Dak Prescott. I cannot wait for Dak to say, all right, bet. I'm not going to play because he's scared of the coronavirus and that he wants a contract. They're going to be forced to start Dalton, make it to the playoffs possibly, or they'll go 8-8 and continue Dalton's trend of choking. Cowboys fans appear happy and content with the signing, probably because they're happy to finally have another white quarterback. It isn't the Dallas fans are in the South.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
What?
We're going to slow yourself down there and say they were, in fact, not happy with Tony Romo, who is as white as my computer screen is right now looking at this
What do you
Word
mean
doc.
they weren't happy from then Tony? I know so
They
many
were
Dallas.
roasting Romo periodically for the last 3 to 4 years of his career because he was so much of a joke. Get out of here, man. Don't try and play the race card. That's dumb. Calling Cowboys fans racist. We reserve this slander for the Panthers. Come on now. We can do better.
What do you mean how the Panthers racist? They signed another black quarterback.
Kyle Allen. You remember what their fans thought of him? But anyway, since we're talking about fans, I'll give my thoughts on this. Andy Dalton is not a choker. He is a victim of circumstance. The last time he was in the playoffs was Devontae's Burfict and Pac-Man Jones game. You know, the game he won, the game he led a game-winning drive on and won late in the fourth quarter, the game that was wrapped up until Vontaze Burfict decided Antonio Brown was going to be his future teammate on the Raiders and gave him the mother of all concussions, the game where Pac-Man Jones sprints out on the field and tries to fight a ref. That game. That was his last playoff game. Andy Dalton did not choke in that game. He was betrayed by his team. And after that, it's been all downhill for the Red Rockets. He has had terrible team after terrible team around him. They've extended the wrong players. They have let go of the right players. His O-line has been god-awful. And he has been subjected to one of the worst situations in the NFL. It was so bad that A.J. Green refused to play last year. And Andy Dalton was out there fighting for his life for 13 games until he finally bit the bullet and got hurt. I pity Andy Dalton. This is by far the best Cowboys team, or the best team he is ever going to be on, and he's going to be a backup. He may end up playing 4 or 5 games. I'd be very happy for him if he did, because he'll get a chance to actually win and compete with a good team. That'd be a lovely change of pace for the Red Rider. But the assumption he's going to be terrible and a choker is slander and heinous misreporting of the facts.
Are you aware of how many? He threw 6 interceptions in his 4 playoff games that he's played in and 1 touchdown. I wouldn't call that not choking. That sounds like choking to me when you're throwing 6 picks and 1 touchdown in 4 games.
Again, though, his last playoff game, he was in position to win. He led the game-winning drive to win the game. He was set to be a playoff winner. Winner.
And in that game, he threw for 150 yards and completed 50% of his passes.
He completed the right 50%. He got them in the position to win, okay? And then his team blew it. You also act like Andy Dalton was the only reason those Bengals teams didn't win a playoff game in 15 years. There are certain members of the coaching organization who are no longer with the team who, let's just say, had a few lackluster play calls and tendencies. But that's getting away from the point. Andy Dalton can be a successful quarterback in the playoffs and in the regular season. If he gets a chance for more than 5 games, unlikely. But hey, I can hope. The Red Rider finally gets a chance to show that he has a rocket launcher and it's not a BB gun, much like J.J. Watt once said.
Anyway, rest in peace to Dak Prescott on the Cowboys. It may be the end of the road for him. Do you want to get on to Jameis Winston going to the Saints?
Yes, the New Orleans Saints' best quarterback has finally joined their team. Jameis Winston threw more passes that resulted in touchdowns to the Saints in recent years than he's thrown to his own team against the Saints, it feels like. He has had terrible performance after terrible performance against the Saints. And the Saints side, hey, wait a second. If he's so good at throwing to our players, maybe he needs to be on this team. And I gotta say, for a lot of reasons, this is one of the best moves of the offseason, which no one is talking about. Jameis Winston is a very capable quarterback who is now able to read and see at distances much better than he was previously because he got LASIK surgery. Jameis Winston will cut down on his interceptions. Probably cut down on his touchdowns too because he won't be playing. But if Drew Brees goes down, Jameis Winston is the best backup in the football by far right now. He's probably a top 20 quarterback if I'm being very slanderous. Jameis Winston is a great quarterback and hopefully he gets a chance to prove himself when old man Brees rides off into the sunset. He is a better Teddy Bridgewater since he is replacing him in that position. I am glad Taysom Hill will not get a chance to play quarterback. The dude is a glorified long snapper next to the prowess it is Jameis Winston as 30 touchdowns.
I mean,
touchdowns.
he may never even get a chance to play for the Saints. He's on a 1-year deal worth $1.1 million, I think it was. I think I was very surprised that he signed, given that Taysom Hill is being lauded as the next Steve Young with a 2-year, $21 million extension, $16 million guaranteed. And it kind of tells me that everything the Saints have been saying about Taysom Hill is completely false and he truly only is a gadget player. They're paying him a lot for someone that's not even going to be on the field that much. Kind of questionable. And I think it's a smart move for Jameis going to the Saints. He gets to play behind Brees for a year, possibly be the successor after his 1 year's up, further develop his eyesight. Pretty soon he'll be able to see defenders before they ever step onto the field. And it's also a good move because Jameis Winston gets to take a little time to see what happens with the coronavirus and is not locked in long term. And, he gets more time to evaluate his situation and possibly set himself up for a big contract with the Saints or a different team.
I don't think what you said based off the last 2 or 3 sentences you put out there, but I'm going to paint a
I don't know
picture
I know what I said
about him being inside with the coronavirus. That's dumb and irrelevant. But I'm going to paint you a beautiful picture with my words now. The late great Drew Brees will not be with us on the football field for the first game of the year. He will strain his little toe and not be able to walk. Jameis Winston will don the white and gold, or the black and gold, the something in gold, and step onto the field to lead the New Orleans Saints against his former team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on opening day in the Superdome. And Jameis Winston will rain hot fire down upon the Buccaneers secondary. He will throw for 6, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 touchdowns on that lackluster Tampa Bay defense. And he will let Bruce Arians know that he is the best Buccaneers quarterback and will always be the best Buccaneers quarterback in the franchise's sorry history. That is what we could be looking forward to opening week. I cannot
the Buccaneers
wait
won a Super Bowl, right?
Okay, name their quarterback.
I can't. But
Exactly.
I also had Steve
Their
Young
best-
play for them at one point.
So you're telling me that Steve Young in his washed up state was better than 33 touchdowns and 5,000 passing yards? Get out of here.
30
James Winston's that
interceptions, though.
franchise's best quarterback. And I cannot wait to see if he gets his chance against the Buccaneers. Ooh, he is going to be cooking. He is going to be eating a W. It will be amazing. That is my dream scenario for this NFL season. Jameis Winston's revenge tour. But we'll have to wait and see.
I don't think he's going to be on. He's going to see the field that much. I think he's probably going to not see the field. I think Drew Brees will stay healthy the whole year, hopefully, and maybe the Saints will be in the playoffs as they always are. But speaking of a quarterback who may not see the field this year, Cam Newton. Cam Newton is not signed yet, and him not being signed yet is a product of him being a superstar and the Panthers rushing him back from injury multiple times over the past 2 years. Every team right now has a plan for their future, and even the teams that he may sign with have some sort of plan for their short-term future. Like, you can't sign with the Colts anymore because they have Phillip Rivers for a year or two. They also have Jacoby Brissett behind him. The only team that I really see Cam Newton that would make most sense, that where he would compete for a starting role, is the Patriots. But we have no idea what the Patriots are doing. They have Jared Stidham right now as their starting quarterback, and they didn't make any other moves to get a quarterback, and they reportedly haven't even contacted Cam Newton. So I don't know what they're doing. Cam could also go to Jacksonville, but they've traded away their whole entire roster and probably are looking to have Gardner Minshew play, given the marketing that was behind him last year and the popularity that he's gained. During the season, I thought Cam Newton would get traded to the Bears. But when you look at the Bears, they just have Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky. The Bears aren't going to be looking for a three-way quarterback battle. And I think it really sucks that we're not going to get to see Cam Newton play. It sucks that because he's kind of a diva and because he's such a superstar, that he's not going to be on a roster. But unfortunately, no one wants him as a backup quarterback. And we'll have to see if he even gets signed this year.
So, a few things to what you said. One, breaking news, everybody. The schedules have been put out while we're recording this. Their strengths have been projected. And in the AFC, the Patriots have the hardest schedule. So, they're definitely tanking. There is no way they don't if they really do have the hardest schedule and Jarrett Stidham is their quarterback. The Patriots are tanking for Trevor. So, I think that option's out. Gardner Minshew is a fan favorite and will lead the team in jersey sales. Not saying much considering no one's on that team besides Leonard Fournette anymore. So I think the Jaguars are out, and every other team has a really good quarterback. They have an established quarterback or a young quarterback. So there's not really a good spot for Cam to go. Will he be signed up as a backup? Sure. Whether that be before the season starts or during the season when someone goes down, Cam Newton will get a chance to play football again this year. Probably won't be in a great situation, but we'll have to wait and see. I think he's a good player still. It is hard to tell if his athleticism will be able to come back to even a shadow of the degree it was prior to his injury. But again, just have to wait and see. Saying though that he won't get a chance to play is foolish. He will be on a team at some point this year.
Hopefully he'll be on a team. I mean, the other teams that are in the betting odds to sign him are the Redskins. They're not going to go add a seventh quarterback to the Redskins roster. They already have. It seems like their
Does the
quarterback
Redskins
roster
making a
never
stupid
ends.
decision when it comes to quarterback really sound that out of character for them?
No, I guess not. And the other one where I could see happening, but not at the same time, is the Steelers. But the Steelers, they're not going to want to upset Big Ben. He wasn't happy when they got Mason Rudolph. So how's he going to think when they sign a former MVP and Cam Newton to the roster? It's just so weird. And I think we're going to be surprised by whichever team decides to sign Cam.
Well, if Cam Newton follows the same legendary workout plan that Ben Roethlisberger has and has recently been published about, there's no chance of him signing with any team. But Cam Newton right now is still working hard. That family-sized bag of chips on his shoulder is up to a variety pack. We can only wait and see how big it gets if he's not signed by the start of the season. Rumor has that he's willing to take a job as a backup quarterback. Rumor being his agent saying he would, in fact, take a job as a backup quarterback. So we'll have to wait and see how it all turns out. Making predictions now is something we will do and be wrong about, but I'm going to say he finds his way into the warm arms of the Pittsburgh Steelers when Ben Roethlisberger gets hurt yet again and the Steelers fans pull their hair out when Mason Rudolph and Ducky Hodges have to start. That is where Cam Newton will end up.
I mean,
Would you like to make a prediction?
I want to say the Patriots, but I think I'm going to be wrong because I think they're in let it ride with Stidham. The Steelers feel like the most likely option at this point in the process. I'd have to agree with you.
Well, what do you know? He was right about something for once. But anywho, that has been our podcast this week. Look forward to various topics in the future, such as recapping the NFL schedules and the ever-present threat of a Michael Jordan-LeBron James debate. Wait to see how that plays out. And we will see you fine folks later.
See ya.